This is Feigin live channel. Finally, we have Olexiy Arestovych in the studio for our next stream. We're glad to meet you. Likewise, good evening. I have to say there are 60,000 people watching us live. Again, a friendly reminder, all viewers, please share the links to this cast on your social media, send direct links, and also do not forget to subscribe to that. You can also subscribe to Olexiy Arestovych's channel. The link to his channel is the description of this video. And we are starting. It is day 37. We missed 2 days. Olexiy, you've been on a business trip? Yes. Did everything go okay as planned? Well, if I come back one piece and alive, means it's good. Thank God, that is important. We would appreciate if we can continue our diaries. With all my heart, yes, I'm glad to. Alright, so, brief question. How did the situation change in the last 3 already days? So there are main 2 things. Number 1 is that they left Kiev. They actually were retreating properly, or tried to. They initially could hold it for a bit, but at the end they failed. Because retreating is one of the most complex operations on the battlefield, and they failed. Also, if you take northeast, near Brovary, northeast of Kiev, they ran all the way to the border with Belarus. There is a bit left in Chernigov, and local people are complaining that about 200 people are dying every day because of Russian shelling. So they're trying to make an example of Chernigov and killing civilians there. On the border between Chernigov and Sumskaya Oblast, they threw about 1,000 pieces of armor. There was a column. They couldn't really go too far because we hit them pretty hard initially, and they pretty much stopped. There's no strategic reason for that stop. I guess it's just a little scary to continue advancing for them. And our army is slowly taking the towns they've left in that direction. So, which ones? Can you give us names? Like Irpin, Bucha? Can you give us names of those? They're smaller sized towns and villages, so the names will not really give you much. But yeah, we're basically retaking all that. Northwest, Bucha, Gostomel, Irpin, Borodenka, even Ivankova are free now. And Ivankova was the main point where they split and did the logistics and split into different directions from there. So they proceeded to Ivankov as one route, and then from there they split 3 ways to continue advance back in the day. And they also left Chernobyl. And they also left Chernobyl station and gave it to the personnel back. Weird thing is that Belarus Special Treatment Center is full with Russian soldiers, according to reports. Do you mean they really dug into the Red Forest? It's crazy. It's a crazy place to be, and I don't know if I can believe that they stayed there, because if you take Geiger counter and just step off the road a little bit as you drive by, it goes bananas. It goes real high. So it's very radioactive and you need to be somewhat insane to try to stay there. So they left in that area as well, all the way north. And northwest, there's some resistance, but we're advancing and taking prisoners. So we push them way, way away from Kiev. Now, all these troops were leaving not for nothing. They're leaving to be thrown back in battle near Izum, and Russia took Izum. So Russians took Izum. Yeah, they took the southern part of town. Not too big of an achievement, but what's important is what's going to happen after. This morning I said that operation has not started yet, but actually they did start a bit later today. We'll see how far Will they push? But they actually did start today. That was our concern, because operation should have started about 3 days ago. So finally they started 3 days later. They probably have a calculation for that, and they're pushing to Lugansk region. Aviation, artillery, Russians are using all equipment they have. Ground forces are not really advancing. So these are the spots where there is some action. Near Kiev, we're winning. Over there in the south and Lugansk, they're trying to push. What is happening near Kherson? Right shore near Kherson is taken by a Russian group, and it's taken pretty firmly. There's a lot of canals and dams, and it's not exactly easy to take over that. So that reminds me of another situation where Russian troops could not really cross some of these infrastructure elements to get closer to Kiev, and now we are confronted with a similar task there. So Russian troops are in deep defense mode there. And by the way, I have to congratulate, there was Chronicles number 12, just 3 minutes before we started the cast. We probably should do like betting process for Chernobivka 13. I heard today that in Belgorod, on the territory of Russian Federation, the fuel depot caught fire, and as we understand, they used that depot for refueling some of the Ministry of Defense armor and trucks from that depot. We saw a video that supposedly shows 2 helicopters doing a strike on that depot. And in Russia, in those parts, near Belgorod and borderline territories, it caused a minor panic. Because normally they kind of got used to just throwing things across the border into Ukraine. That reminds me of an old joke about some people saying, hey, let's go kick our neighbors, the neighbors over there. What if they kick us back? Well, what for? We're the good guys. That's what I think is happening there. They did not expect it. Well, actually, Belgorod is a place where the troops concentrate, the ones that are being thrown to the front. They get new troops, refueled, and then they go in a big circle and get into Izum and start attacking our army there. So things started happening there. Weird things. Fuel depot, ammo depot. Strange things are happening, exploding, and I should say that we have no clue of what's happening. And I think that the administration of Russian Federation is responsible for all the things happening on the territory of Russian Federation. We have no clue, of course. We are fighting on our territory. So, I don't know, maybe somebody was smoking in the wrong place. Maybe, maybe Russian troops sabotaged something that they didn't want to go to fight. But probably something weird is happening there for 3 days in a row. So, we're not fighting there. Oh, yeah, there are no Ukrainian troops in that region. That's, I cannot really talk more about it. I have no official information to share. All right, I understood. Let's continue. Next question is about the negotiation process. I understand that there are other people who are involved in that process, and they commend the advancement and the progress there, but we would like to know an opinion, let's say your opinion about the negotiations. Because, Ukraine is a democracy and people can say and express different points of view. So we're interested in your specific point of view about what has concluded in Turkey. What can we say about post-Istanbul negotiations? Some people are skeptical and are saying that Moscow is waiting for any success on the military front. Moscow is not just waiting, they're really pushing for that success. But something tells me they will have some difficulties, both in Mariupol and on the Eastern Front. Especially if you take a look at some of the movements of the Ukrainian army in the southeastern direction, and some villages are getting liberated in the southeastern direction. I'm not commenting in details, but it might be a concern for the detachments near Mariupol. Do you think they can reach Mariupol and deblock the city? Well, who knows? But it probably will cause some grief for Russian troops in that area. Can it affect the negotiation process? In some way. And I guess we'll see in a few days how it will. And also, I will not repeat some data, but some data actually was spilled in the media that Mariupol is actually getting some support from different directions. And Mariupol is reporting in a 4-5 code, that's a Ukrainian code, that basically means that everything is all right. One of the good results of the previous negotiation was that 40 buses was agreed to be used to evacuate civilians from the city. And we'll see how that evolves, but at least right now there is an official mandate to do that. 40 buses, that's a lot of people that can move, and if they'll continue that shuttling service, there'll be some movement. And there are conversations about starting to arrange the meeting at the highest level, probably ministers of foreign affairs and maybe eventually presidents. But, of course, if they'll be winning, Putin will be involved in that negotiation. If they'll be losing, he likely will not, and he'll pin it onto his subordinates to be the faces of defeat. So, what about the spring conscription, mandatory service in Russia? Putin and his head of Ministry of Defense, Shoigu, said that these new recruits will not be serving in Ukraine, 18-year-olds, over 100,000 people, and he's saying that these people will not be sent to any of the war zones. So, in your opinion, in your informed opinion, dependent on whom did you already capture? Whom did you see fighting? What can you say about that? Oh, yeah. There is a saying that, that's how it happens. You went to sleep and you woke up already on the front. So what's the possibility of these new recruits to be thrown into the grinder here in Ukraine? Because, for the most part, they're demotivated. They're not getting money. They're not getting anything. Do you think there's a chance that they will be sent? Because yesterday I had a stream with Yuri Fedorov, a well-known expert from Radio Freedom, who was part of Gorbachev Fund. He's an analytics specialist, and he thinks it's just a gameplay, and of course they will be sent. Chances are they'll be sent to the grinder in a couple months after they get some initial training, but I suspect there is no reserve. I have to say that there are no illusions have to be expressed over that. Of course they will be sent to the grinder. What Russian mothers need to understand, the ones who are watching us. Dear Russian moms, I need to tell you that here right now, about 50 to 60% of the Russian army are recruits. They're not contractors or professionals, they're recruits. That's one thing. The other thing is Putin has no reserves, because the officer positions in the detachments they're throwing here are given to people without any formal military education. Basically, if you agree to be an officer here, here's a detachment to command. Another thing is that they don't have equipment. All the armor is here, either already burned or already engaged. As we were seeing near Kiev, they were losing 20, 30 pieces of equipment just because they ran out of fuel. So chances are, if they're sent here on any equipment, they likely will be put on the old reserves that were conserved and preserved somewhere from 1960s and 70s, so it's basically going to be a murder. So if your sons are going, they likely will be dead. If right now we had 50-60% recruits, I'm thinking in the next group, will, in the next couple of months, it'll likely be 80%, so it'll be your sons without any equipment to our 35, 45-year-olds who had all the training, who already were engaged for some time, who recently destroyed the army full of contractors, and they're very upset about their families being killed and their houses being burned. So I would advise you to be concerned that your sons are not even being sent to the war. They're being sent to die, because they have no equipment, they have no training, they don't have any older friends to teach them, because there are no older troops to teach them. It's about nothing, really. What can you teach a recruit in 4 weeks? Well, if they would not understand that they need to stop war, period, I would be very concerned about even joining that conscription, that mandatory service this year. They'll be just dead here. There'll not be even a fight. If they're lucky, they maybe surrender. We have about 90,000 people watching us live. It's 18th minute of our cast. My only request is please share the links to this interview in your social media and send direct links to your friends. Please subscribe to my channel and to Alexei's channel. I'm almost at million, says Alexei, and yeah, please subscribe to his channel, let him reach the 1 million subscribers. That's a good milestone. And the more people are watching us, the better this information can precipitate both countries. Our viewers, by the way, we have very exact data that the very top of Russia is checking on our casts. I actually had some data leak that the highest person, the highest decision maker, is aware of this specific analytical show, analytical cast. So if he's watching us, we have to tell him that we learned today that he might have cancer. I think you can see that if you look at him. Do you think he's taking blood baths? I've actually dedicated quite a few shows about his state of health, and it was before the war. There was a lot of insider information. It seems like somebody's leaking the data and somebody's really preparing the ship. So they're basically saying that it's metastatic from butt to his brain, and they're almost using some weird rituals to try to help him, because medicine can only go so far. And of course, the misinformation from his generals is pretty complex. Can you comment anything about that? How higher military administration of Russia, what is their attitude to this war? Do they really want, do they not want to fight? Can they affect anything? I would say that they're at a loss, at a substantial loss. Because unlike Putin, they probably have pretty detailed data about what's happening here, and they can understand the perspectives. And that Russian army did not achieve any operational success. They did not completely destroy any brigade on the Ukrainian side. None of our brigades stopped existing. So I'm putting myself at the place of Fominich Alexander Vasilievich, Colonel General, who knew the might of Russian army and who served for tens of years in that system. And now, according to our data, anywhere between 2 and 3 army commanders have been taken off from their positions, fired, or forced to resign. So somebody will have to answer for that. And what if your slogan where Putin, there is victory, will not work? What if there'll be no victory? Nobody will admit responsibility. Putin will not do that. So somebody will have to become a scapegoat. If Putin cannot win in Ukraine, he will have to win in the internal takeover. And he will need to be wiser and to win internally, to show that there was a coup and he figured a way to prevent it. So these military people, according to my data, started to think about who will likely be the one to blame. The command is big, so whom do they pick, you think? Probably one symbolic figure like Shoigu, and then maybe 5-10 more heads of departments, army generals. The coup has to be extensive, so there likely will be, 10 to 15 generals. Otherwise, it's hard to describe why Russian army could not win in Ukraine. That seems to be a tradition with these regimes, starting with coup and turnovers from illusionary to real ones, and the failed ones, like Valkyrie, including the coup in the USSR by Tukhachevsky, which seems like there was one as well, but it was stopped. So Shoigu, Gerasimov, somebody needs to be executed for the failure. So here's the question. Russian generals have to understand that their heads will fall. And it will not be a small incident. It won't be just Shoigu and his assistant. There'll be a lot of people fired or imprisoned or maybe executed. So the question is, who will win, generals or Putin? I will have to remind you one conflict, Chinese-Vietnamese conflict, 1979. What does China start with? It's a laid-back country where any alive thought has been destroyed by a system. And Deng Xiaoping wants to reform it, but he doesn't know how to start because back in the day the system was that the leader of a territory was political leader, economic leader, and military leader. It is almost impossible to replace them or control them. So there is that war, the conflict. China loses thousands of peoples and loses the whole conflict. Deng Xiaoping starts by taking off the heads of the southern districts, and then continues by dethroning all of the other leaders in the different throughout the whole country. And then so he basically kicked out the old guard, and he then made a rule that would not allow one person to control three powers. So there would be three positions instead. And there's a chance that there'll be that regressive evolution in Russia after that by Putin. But there is a piece of news that the regime change usually happens after the failed military adventure. So what will happen in Russia? Putin will dethrone himself, or will he pin the blame onto FSB and military heads? And chances are that some heads will roll on both sides, on Federal Service, Secret Bureau, and military. I don't think he fully understood how to do the military operation. He is not a military person. And I think he was given a map, a general roadmap how that will be done. So we got some of the documents from original airborne troopers in the Gestapo, and their task was by the 12th hour they had to control the government city, the government street in Kiev. And the last resistance was expected at about the 20th day in the very west of Ukraine. So they thought in 20 days they will close everything and complete everything by that time. So imagine the disconnect between that and us today on the 37th day, where we still control significant portion of our sky. So imagine Putin, he knows his system. He served for 23 years in the system. And then he had wonderful years as the president. He had amazing money, amazing income that could really advance the country, but he wasted that for ridiculous stuff, his own luxuries and yachts and palaces, and now saying that, basically pitting Russia against the whole world, saying that NATO was always against us. Now imagine you're a 70-year-old gramps with sarcoma or some other kind of cancer, and you don't have much time left, and now you're given an opportunity that you think you will use as a great opportunity to leave a good memory about yourself before you go. So what do you think will happen? Do you think you will commit suicide based on that, or the heads of the generals will roll? So here I have to warn the generals using this tribune. It's really between you and Putin. It's either you or him. It actually is a pretty realistic strategy, because Putin will have to rely on Secret Service and maybe Chechen guys. Now, as far as his philosophic considerations, can you imagine him reading the book by Haushofer? No, maybe by Dugin, by his Russian chauvinist thinker. So, right now he really has besides his own administration, the strongest one is army. So army essentially is the strongest unit in Russia that can change things for many, many years and maybe avoid catastrophe for themselves personally. I think this thought is in the air, so it is interesting what will happen. Yeah, coups were never police coups. Yeah, we should, it's interesting to see what will happen. We've been for half an hour online, 126,000 people watching us live. We shall reconvene tomorrow, the same time. You think you're not going on any trips? No, we just got back home, so let me get back to myself. Everything is good. And yes, sometimes we do miss shows because I do have to travel and I do have to see things. But there are no plans for traveling tomorrow, so I hope to see everybody tomorrow. Here, everybody, again, thank you so much for being with us and subscribe to our channels. And please spread out the information about this cast so we get more people to disseminate the data. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. To disseminate the data. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. To disseminate the data. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. To disseminate the data. Goodbye, everybody.